person. That's what we're talking about today. So who do we bring in to talk about this? We've got personal finance expert and money sense columnist, Bruce Sellery.
Do you like my hat?
I like the hat.
Yeah.
I feel like it's subtle.
It's totally subtle.
We're going to be talking about money, and we're going to be talking about saving money and maybe some of the connotations that come along with saving money. Frugal versus thrifty. Which is which? Which do we want to be?
Yeah. People used to call me cheap. Actually cheap. And it wasn't because I wore this. I did. I went backpacking in Europe for 6 months and survived solely on bread and water. Or bagels or beignets. Or I lost 20 pounds.
Yes.
Because I was obsessed with not spending any money. I have evolved significantly, and now it is all about trade-offs, the choices that we make. So I would argue that thrifty isn't a virtue and frivolity isn't a vice. We need to find our own way, figure out what works for us, and where everyone can get such an amazing hat.
I bet
got
you
it for free,
on sale.
for the record. I got it for free, for the record.
Okay, so we need to, where do we start then when we're trying to categorize where are we saving money, what are we giving up to save money?
So we want to talk about what we spend our money on and how we spend it. The what is, what's your thing? Do you have a thing? Like, some people have a thing.
So maybe
chocolate, clothing, eating out, groceries, telecom bills. Everybody has a different thing, and you need to figure out what it is so you can think about how to eliminate that thing or reduce how much you spend on that thing. We all, as human beings, have a limited amount of willpower. We all have, I don't know how many units. If you're a parent, you have fewer units because so many are used up by your children. But we have a limited amount of willpower in which to manage our spending. So don't try and tackle everything. Choose a thing that is going to make the biggest difference to your financial well-being.
Okay, and then I guess you have to start figuring out, what do I really want and what do I need?
Well, the needs and wants thing is a distinction that we need to keep top of mind all the time. I mean, at back-to-school spending, we talked about it a lot with Abby. It was like, you don't actually need a new knapsack. You want one, which is fantastic, but you've got a thing that you can put on your back that carries your lunch. That suffices.
Right.
The second part of this is about habits, and so much of our personal finance is about how we have habits. So we have problem habits and we have habits that work for us. One example is credit cards. It's a habit. So we spend with the credit card any bit of plastic, and what we know from research is that anesthetizes the pain of spending. So I got this $200 Starbucks gift card.
Yes.
I feel like a millionaire.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to buy everything. I'll have a sandwich. I'll have a double coffee. I'll have whatever. If that was cash, I would never be spending that money at a coffee shop. Another problem habit is takeout. So, you know, we don't have the time to cook. Of course we don't, but we get into the habit of taking our food, not taking our food around. So the solution on the credit card front is go cash only, which is very painful. The solution on, your lunch is pack it the night before. So we can talk about how do we change habits, but that's really what it is. Aside from just, spend less, that's just a good intention. It's never going to happen. It's the equivalent of, let's do lunch one day, some way, and lose 5 pounds while we're at it. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Okay, you have to be really intentional then when it is about creating a new habit. So you're either getting rid of a bad habit or you're trying to create a new habit, and a lot goes into that.
There is an anatomy of developing habits. Nir Eyal is a habits expert, and here's what he says. There is the motivation, there is the ability, there is the trigger, and then there is a new habit. So let's take, for example, you want to save money to pay down debt. That's your motivation. You're like, I'm going to do this. You need the ability to change the way that you spend. So, for example, packing a lunch takes a certain set of skills. Not a lot of skills, but a certain set of skills. The trigger is the thing. What's the trigger? What's going to have me do this? So here's an example. Put your lunch bag in your pillow. Every night you go to sleep and you're like, ow, what is that thing? It's my lunch bag. And then I walk down the stairs and make my lunch for the next day. None of this is particularly fun, but you need to figure out what is a way to trigger yourself into that change. It will not be uncomfortable. It will feel strange, because even the things that don't work for us in our life in general are comfortable.
They are.
We're used to it. We're used to being cash poor. We're used to being in a dysfunctional relationship. We're used to a needy best friend. We're just used to it. We don't like it, but we're used to it.
That's true. And so we'd rather stick with something that's uncomfortable and doesn't feel right, but that we're used to, rather than going through the discomfort of doing something new. Okay, so what is the Diderot effect?
Oh, I love this. It's a French philosopher from the 1700s, and he wrote an essay entitled Regrets on Parting with My Old Dressing Gown.
Okay.
You think, what? What's the big deal?
It's very specific.
But the phenomenon that he wrote about is he bought a new dressing gown and noticed that the rest of his house no longer fit.
Oh, gosh,
So you say, I think I'm going to paint the living room.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, look at the furniture. This is a disaster. So you buy new furniture, and then you look at it and you're like, the living room's amazing. The kitchen. I got to do the kitchen. The kitchen is a disaster.
Yes.
You do the kitchen, and then you look at the rest of the house and you think, we got to move.
Yeah.
This just doesn't work.
Totally.
So it was $300 for a couple of gallons of paint, and now you're spending another $300,000 buying a new house.
Right.
So what I wanted to throw in there is, as we think about being thrifty, just think about the choices you make, and as you paint that new living room, don't get a realtor and buy a new house.
Yes.
Like, that's a whole other thing.
It's
why I'm keeping my
thing.
dressing gown from like my teenage years. It is ratty. It has an Aztec pattern.
Yes.
It's very tacky.
Yeah, don't even upgrade it.
No, I will
it's just
not.
you're asking for issues.
for trouble.
Yeah. So the psychological part of this is when is enough enough? And I think a lot of us have to rack back. You're actually doing fine and you do have enough. You don't need any more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love your advice. Very good.